This episode of the Mega Meeple is brought to you by our supporters over at Pod Pledge. Welcome back to the Mega Meeple, the show all about gamers and games that bring them together. This is episode 39. And look who's back.
Hey there.
Hey, how you doing, Al? Long time no see. Glad you're back. Yeah, just having to deal with all the crud going around, and so hope everybody's feeling better.
I appreciate that, Tom. Appreciate you taking the reins of the wild horse that is the Mega Meeple.
Gonna be doing some going back to our regularly scheduled program. I know that every once in a while we have a serious topic that we cover, like we did last time. But rest assured that we do eventually get back to the fun stuff.
I kind of hate that I missed the last one. I find that topic of a great interest, and coming from a long-time gamer point of view, things have changed in a very positive manner for gamers over time. It's gone from being what was mainly a boys' club back in the day to being more of an equal thing. But there's still things that both society and gamers don't need to work through, and I guess that's part of the deal.
Yeah, but I'm surprised that as of right now I have not received any hate mail. Now that's not an invitation for everybody out there to.
Oh dang! I was getting ready to go to the nearest link and type in hate mail for you just so you feel better.
But people are listening to it. I mean, it's right now. I mean, the show's only been, at the time of this recording, the show's only been live for maybe like 4 days, and it's already like the number 2 most downloaded show. Number 1 is our interview with the Tiny Epic Zombies.
Oh, really?
So that one's leading the pack right now, and
I would have thought Ivan might have led the way, but that's interesting.
Yeah, he was actually his episode was kind of average. I mean, as time has gone on, it's things
not the content, but
not
the number
content, just the reception.
Gotcha, Ivan.
But and I think too, just the improvements that we made doing things over Skype rather over on phone, so it actually sounds like the person is in the room with us. But it's just the audio quality of the interviews I think have improved since then. So
thanks to our contributors for that.
Yes, very much. So, and you can probably hear our special guest, Jack the cat. He kind of wandering around here and he quips his input, his 2 cents in every once in a while. So you might hear him. But so what? When you've been feeling better, have you been doing much gaming since you've been here?
Yeah, I'm actually haven't been at the shop for a little while, and I've been able to go back now the last couple 3 weeks and do some working and some gaming. Not a ton, but what I have been playing fairly regularly is Gloomhaven, which I've enjoyed a great deal.
Okay.
And I've also got a regular group that's been doing Charterstone.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I have been doing is kind of campaign / legacy style gaming, which is something I've always enjoyed.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we have a group going through Charterstone, and we've gotten. How far into it are you? We just finished the second game, and we're only doing it like every 2 weeks or so.
That's pretty close to ours. I think we may be into our 3rd session, but I'm not positive. But yeah, and it's interesting. It's unfolding in a enjoyable way, but I guess I'd like to see a little bit more movement and action between, so that there's significant differences. But I've heard actually for some folks who've played 5 or 6 sessions that we're about to get it to kick in now.
Yeah, I hear it kind of kicks into some interesting scenarios and stuff about halfway through, and I mean, the second, the first one was really good. The second one was kind of a bit of a rocky start because it was like, okay, are we overlooking something? Are we missing a role somewhere? So we spent a good half hours at least trying to figure out, okay, well, what's the setup for game 2? And then after I was like, okay, well, let's just roll the dice, see which charter goes first, and let's just play as we've been playing. And it's one of those things. It's like, well, what's because right now we don't even know what income is. Mm-hmm. We see the symbol and icon for income, but we haven't been told what income is about yet. So it's like, and from what I've read on BGG, it's like, don't overthink it. If it
coming soon to a charter stone near you.
Yeah, if it hasn't been explicitly described to you, don't worry. Don't sweat it. It will happen sooner or later.
Now, there's less of that kind of happening in Gloomhaven. They don't seem to introduce something ahead of time that you think you're supposed to be dealing with right away. Mm-hmm. So there's less confusion in regards to that. I think if you're talking about Gloomhaven, whether it deserves to be number 1 in BGG is an open question. I'm enjoying it, but I don't know if it's going to make the long haul. I think it's a interesting and fun game. I think the polls are still out, in my opinion, as to whether it belongs as number 1.
Yeah, and that's why I started my little rant session talking about just how relevant ranking is. It's like, okay, well, and you can go back and listen to that. I think it was episode 32 episodes ago.
Yeah, 37. That's right.
So.
And I'm pretty sure you have a similar opinion. It's a conversation starter. Mm-hmm. It doesn't harm anything. And what am I doing? I'm talking about whether the Gloomhaven belongs number 1 or not. It brings the discussion up.
Yeah. One thing that's a really cool, I think is a good conversation starter is a game that just this past week finished on Kickstarter called U-Boot. So looking forward to sometime before, it said estimated delivery by the end of this year. But looking through some of all the stretch goals and unlockings and stuff like that, I mean, it's an app-driven game, and one of the things I thought was really cool is they introduced on the app, and it reminds me and harkens back to the movie Dust Boot, where the enemy boat is topside and going over them, and they have to be like really, really quiet, or they'll be noticed or heard. Evidently, in some of these missions, if there's an enemy boat nearby, the app, and I'm sure it asks permission to use your microphone on your phone, and if people around the gaming table is too loud, the enemy ship will detect you.
Well, let's see. I like the idea of a simulation like that, but on the other hand, to simulate being inside a sub, you'd have to have like bad fetid oxygen, hot, sweaty human bodies banging up against you as you try to get from location to location. I'm not sure I want a full simulation of reality for a submarine game, at least.
Well, talk about being, submerged into the theme, so to speak. But I'm hoping, I'm sure they will, but I'm hoping that they'll have something on there of you could adjust the sensitivity to the thing. Because I don't know I don't want to be like we're playing it here and then Jack Shack meows and all of a sudden we get a bunch of
oh no, the cat killed us. What's what's that 8-player game that that does the submarine?
Captain Sonar.
Captain Sonar.
Yeah.
You know, that actually does a pretty good job of the fog of war and the difficulty of communication. It's a terrific game, but it also is an excellent view into how it's, you know, you'd think it'd be easy to carry out whatever requirements you have to do your job in a sub. And it's insanity. And then I sat into an 8-player game. And when I tell you, if you don't do it 8 players, this doesn't do it justice. When you have 8 players, it suddenly becomes a transformative experience.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really wild because the game systems are set up so that you actually have to interact with the different guys. So the captain really doesn't do anything except listen to everybody else who are telling him everything and then make decisions. And the one person's in charge of radar, etc. So it tries to simulate the process of decision making and how that's set up, and they managed to do it fairly well. And the poor captain, you know, he's captive to the quality of his crewmates. Interesting stuff.
Okay, gang, a little quick insert here. During me and Al's little chit-chat about gaming for couples, I totally forgot to share this meme that was put out by Married with Meeples. Now, this is a photo I shared. I saw it on Instagram, and I shared the photo on our Facebook page. So if you go to the Mega Meeple Facebook page and go to photos, you'll be able to see that with Married with Meeples. And if you'd like to go ahead and share that because it's pretty funny. But it's one of those things you have to really see it to get the full effect of all the jokes. But I'll just I'll try to read it and hopefully we'll get the gist of it right here. This is from Married with Meeples, and this is I guess you call it a board game poem. I was in a little pandemic about what to do for Valentine's. I had no clue to what to do, so I got to 7 wonders about how I would dix it. I was thinking of a love letter, but that seemed unfair. Aside from that, I didn't. I was thinking we sushi go to Carcassonne to raise our goblets or a ticket to ride to Santorini. But that would make me splendor too much, so I settled Urs of Catan for this board game poem. It still needs a little patchwork, though. So that's this little cute little Valentine's board game poem that I saw on the Married with Meeples Instagram, and thanks to them, I told them I was going to share that on this podcast, and I totally forgot about that when me and Al was talking, so... let's just go ahead and get back to Al and I talking about board games with couples. So, well, this past week was Valentine's Day, so hope everybody had a good VD day or Valentine or whatever. I'm single, so, you know, it's just another day on the calendar to me.
That's what my wife says, too.
But I did have a really good steak dinner last night, and it's the first time I actually had a proper steak in years, literally, and it was fun, very good. Let's just get back in and let's get into I guess games for couples, and not necessarily games that people would play only for Valentine's Day week or something like that, but just good couple games or games that's good to play on a date night. I don't have any. Which goes to show how long I've been on a date.
Yeah, well, it's been a long time since I've been on a date, too. I tell you what's interesting. My wife was... My wife used to play family games when she was young, and she had... and she's told this story, I think, probably on the show before. Her brothers were ultra competitive, so she used to play games with them, and they'd get where they would just get over the top competitive, and she backed out of playing with them and stopped playing non-solo games other than card games for years. So we got together, and she picked up my passion for games in the last several years when I've started coming back to the hobby, and for a couple of years she just sort of was like, whatever, you enjoy yourself, go enjoy playing games with your brother when he comes over, whatever. I don't know whether it was her passion for games coming back or wanting to be able to spend the time with me, but she found that I think it'd be safer to say that she's picked it back up, and it's not just games for just couples, but just playing games with, even other folks. For example, at the game store, or she seems to have kind of enjoyed the process of getting into the board gaming hobby. That's greatly appreciated, at least from my point of view. Okay, yeah. And I suspect that's some of the case for some couples, that one is kind of supporting the other and trying to spend time, and hopefully picks up the bug.
Yeah. I know. One of the things that really impressed me. I was living with a family at one point, trying to get physically better after a long hospital stay, and the couple I was living with at the time, both the husband and the wife is into gaming. Now each one has their own, tastes and what type of games they lean towards. But up to that point, a lot of the couples that I've seen or encountered is like, all right, it's usually the guys that's into gaming, and the wife or the girlfriend is like, okay, you don't bring that stuff in here. We'll have a little small room in the house or apartment that you could play your games in, and you don't bring that out into the rest of the house type of thing. Yeah. So when I found, it's like, oh wow, there's like, couples that are into gaming together. Yeah, so that was my first exposure. It's like, okay, well, wow, that's pretty. To me at the time, it was kind of a novel idea. It's like, oh wow, it's something that both people can do, and both people are interested in it.
Yeah, I suppose many a man cave has come from a guy, wanting to be able to set off to his own location, perhaps, if the other side of the couple doesn't have interest. Mm-hmm. Sets off his own space so he can play darts and drink and break out a board game every once in a while.
Yeah.
There are certain games that, and I'd throw out code names as an example. Mm-hmm. It's almost an unfair advantage for a couple. If they're going to be on the same team, and if one guy, if the husband's or the wife is throwing out the clues, and the other member of the couple is the receiver of the clues, they can draw on common experience for those single word clues.
Yeah.
So the best thing I'd say there is to break them up.
A game like that would actually be good for I think like a double date, or even there was a game that I played for the first time. Never heard about it before, but played it for the first time last Christmas. My roommate's girlfriend, we went over to her family's house for Christmas dinner. All the people there, they were not into like board games, but they did play this one game called Heads Up, and it's an app on your phone, and it's from what I understand, it's a creation from Ellen DeGeneres.
Really?
Yeah, and it's sort of like charades but they have, hey cat, that's our cat. These different categories, and what you do is you put your phone up to your forehead, and on a screen it shows like a word, and then the people in front of you need to like act out that word or shout, give clues or some kind of acting out or singing out, and for every one that you get right, you tip your phone like either up or down. I forget which one, but and then all the words that you want to pass on, you tip it
rotate
in the opposite direction, and evidently the gyroscope in your phone tells the app whether you got how many you got right and how many you got wrong. So we were doing that, and that was a lot of fun. But I thought, well, what's the whole thing about holding the phone up to your forehead? And what the app is doing is it has access to your phone, your camera, and it's videotaping whoever is in front of you.
No kidding.
So you could go back later and watch a video of your friends making a fool of themselves. So there's evidently people have uploaded these videos on I don't know if there's like a social site or something on Heads Up that they, but it's like watch your friends make a fool out of themselves, and that's another game that would be good for like a double date couples night out type of thing. You do a couple against couple, or men against women or whatever. So I thought that was a good, especially if the other couple that you're going out with a double date on doesn't game, that would be good.
Sure, more party style.
Yeah,
but something that the dates can do.
Yeah.
To tie it back up with something we were talking about a little bit earlier, is that these legacy games that are now hot in gaming these days, certainly over the last couple of years. That's good for couples and or families too, because with those kind of games, you want to try to draw the same group of people multiple times, and sometimes it's a lot easier to get, obviously, a couple to get together, or families if they're living together, in order to get those games together and played. Although, based on my family, granddaughter lives next door to me, and we still can't get them together.
And I think really anything that's good for families is good for couples too, and vice versa.
The trick, I think, is competitive versus a cooperative.
Yeah.
I think for couples, you have to have how do I phrase this without getting my wife angry at me? No, seriously. It can be sometimes a point of contention if you're playing a competitive game on a one-on-one basis. That may roll out to meta gaming. In other words, to where, if someone thinks you've, played too hard, too competitive, kind of like what my wife was saying about her brothers. It can create a social situation outside of the game that you don't necessarily want to add to the process. So I think competitive games, one I'm looking at right now that's on your shelf, Arkham Horror. So that's where you're both working together as two separate characters. So you don't necessarily have to be doing exactly the same thing, but you're fighting against the game. Mm-hmm. And therefore, you're less likely to create competitive issues in regards to I beat you, neener.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that. See, I went online to see what other people are listing as good couple, and a lot of it is still saying. Monopoly or whatever. I don't see that because from what I've heard from people, it's like families have fought over Monopoly
for decades.
So I don't know.
And if you play that game properly, it is cutthroat.
But it's been neat because games like Ticket to Ride and Catan, Settlers of Catan has made their way into some of those lists that I've seen. So yeah, so it's probably a good gateway game would be a pretty good bet. A couples game or
Ticket to Ride as an example. Yeah, I think Mansions of Madness, once again, being a cooperative game where the game system is being the moderator for you, and we kind of mention that regularly on these shows. But I think that's a nice choice to find a way that you can play something together.
Yeah. All right, welcome back to the Mega Meeple, and we got actually I think we got another first here. We're talking with Petter Olsen, and Petter is talking to us all the way from Norway. How you doing, Petter?
Hello, I'm fine. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So I think you hold the record as the longest distance interview guest that we've had on the show thus far. So. How's things going over in Norway?
Yeah, it's good, and it's of course it's pretty cold here, and it's a lot of snow, so everything is as it should be in Norway.
Okay, all right. Well, Petter, you have a Kickstarter coming up pretty soon. Now you're with Tompet Games. And, of course, we'll have links to all these things that we talk about in the show notes for this episode. But this is not your first game design and doing games. So you have another game that's already been published. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, the first game we launched on Kickstarter was back in 2016 in September. And the game was Kill the King. It is a strategic board game where two players control one army each, and one of the player attacks a castle while the other player is trying to defend the castle and prevent the attackers from killing the king that's inside the castle. And basically the attackers have to hurry because the defenders will soon be reinforced by its own cavalry in a good Lord of the Rings style when the cavalry comes to save the day. And there's also, you can play two alternate game modes of Kill the King. The first one is a regular battle between the two players outside the castle walls, and the second one is a big version of the normal mode where you can combine two game boards to get a really big castle that can be attacked from both sides. So the Kill the King is kind of a light war game that is a good game to introduce new players to the war game genre, and also for heavy war gamers to play a fast paced war game.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Now this game is available everywhere, or it's available to be shipped all around the world, correct?
Yeah, it's already shipped and we're already sold out.
Oh,
so,
okay. So I guess we missed out. All right. Well, are you? Is it going to be like a second printing or become available at some future date as well?
We'll see. It was a rather light or small print run, so we will see if it becomes a cult hit and the demand for it brings it back. But at the moment, my focus is on Donning the Purple, which is my second game. So perhaps we will see in the future what it brings.
Okay, good. Well, let's go ahead and launch into that. Now, that is coming out to Kickstarter. When is that Kickstarter going to be live for Donning the Purple?
It is going to be live on February 20th, in about a week from when we are recording this. So 6 o'clock Norwegian time, if you know what that is, on Tuesday, February 20th.
Okay, great. Now, Donning the Purple follows the Roman Empire and how you could play an emperor or trying to kill the emperor, or there's armies invading, and so sounds like a pretty epic game. Give us well, first of all, give us I call this question the barroom napkin question, because a lot of good ideas came out of just scribbling something on a barroom napkin. So
Yeah.
how did this game come to be?
This game was I was inspired to make this game when I was listening to a podcast series about the history of Rome. It is over 200 episodes that starts with the beginning of the Roman Empire or Kingdom back in way before Christ, and all the way to its end. So and when I listened to that podcast, I was thinking about why did anybody want to be the emperor of Rome? Because it was all trouble all over the empire popping up. It was famine and wars, and everybody wanted to kill you. And no matter what you did, the people hated you. So I didn't understand why anybody wanted to be that. And I was also interested in that feeling that you are on the top, and everything you do is bad in the eyes of the people and good in your eyes. So I wanted to depict that feeling in the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So give us a rundown of what the victory conditions are and the mechanics of how the game plays out.
Yeah, Dawning the Purple is set in the year of 193 AD. The Roman Empire is not as great as it once was. Enemies are crossing the borders, while famine and political intrigues are tearing the empire apart from within. And the previous emperor was killed by his Praetorian bodyguard, and it has now left a vacuum that the powerful families in Rome are trying to fill. So, and Donning the Purple is an asymmetrical King of the Hill game with a bit of worker placement elements, where each player leads a powerful family in ancient Rome, and they are trying to get the most victory points during 4 rounds, which is 4 years. And if your family member becomes the emperor and manages to hold that position, he can earn lots of points. However, he will also become the target of the other players as they will try to dethrone him and become the new emperor themselves.
All right. Now, I see here that you have 2 rules here that you could possibly assassinate the emperor or a senator. How do those 2 rules differ?
Yeah. So the worker placement mechanic in this game is it's not actual workers you place; it's your stamina. So every time you do an action, you use up one of your stamina, and when you have no stamina left, you die. And if you are the emperor, you have to make sure that you have an heir that will follow your leader. Or if you don't, the next emperor will become the player with the highest ranking senator. So the 2 assassination mechanics in the game is that you can try to assassinate the emperor, and you can do that by removing more of his stamina quicker, so he will die quicker, or die if you remove a lot of stamina points. And if you wanted to do that, you have to roll a die, and you remove as many stamina as the pips on the die. And you can also boost the number by using plot cards to both strengthen the die, and if you are the emperor, you can use a plot card to weaken the die. When a player decides to assassinate, he has to put his plot card face down, and the same thing with the emperor. So you don't know how much boosting and weakening numbers you have, and then the attacker rolls a die, and then they reveal their cards, and they subtract and add the strength, and the emperor loses that many stamina points. To assassinate a senator is more easier. You just have to roll a die and get a specific number, and you just kill the top, the high ranking senator.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and you also have some mechanics in here about harvesting grain. One of the phases of the player turn is distribute food. So is how much grain you're able to harvest dictate how much food you're able to distribute throughout your empire?
Yeah, so a big aspect of being the emperor is to feed your people. And in your empire is divided in 4 regions, and each region has one farm that provides X amount of grain. But if all your farms are producing grains, you still won't have enough to feed all the people. So you have to import grain to feed all of your people, and that import price can get higher and lower depending on certain event cards that you can draw and some plot cards that the other players can play to adjust the price. And for each province that the emperor is not able to feed at the end of the year, he will get 1 minus point in happiness. And if the general happiness of the people is low enough, they will rebel and kill the emperor. So the grain thing is another aspect that the emperor has to watch out for when he manages the empire.
And I could see you also in here have our favorite time of the year, tax season, and where you collect the tax. How does that mechanic work?
Yeah, each player can build different buildings, and one of those buildings are estates, and they provide coins for the players. And the emperor also generates 1 coin per province that goes into his coin supply. But that is, of course, after he has to import all the grain. So he won't be. Unfortunately for the emperor, he won't collect taxes and then import the grain. You have to import the grain first. And then get the taxes. And another important aspect about this is that each region can be famished. There are certain events that will occur that can famish a region, and a famished region won't provide grain or coins at the end of the year. So it's money and grain is tight in this game. So you have to be ready for anything.
Okay. And I see too that I know there's a big market for solo play, and it's good to see that you have this game also plays for solo play as well. Now, how does the solo play rules compare to a multiplayer?
In the solo rules, you have to you are the emperor for all the game, and you have to remain emperor within the emperorship within your family during the whole game. If you die and don't have an heir, you will lose the game. And if the Senate gains more points than you during the game, you will die or lose. And if all the enemies are invading and controlling each regional capital, you will lose. So it's a lot of loss conditions and very few win conditions to the solo mode. But solo mode should be hard, and this game is quite hard solo. And I was kind of inspired by the Rome Total War series, the computer games, if you know that.
Okay, yeah.
It's not that battle heavy, but the management of the empire and all that, I really like to do that in the computer games, and I wanted to capture that feeling when you play solo.
Excellent. All right, Peter. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on our show and our first. I don't know how many miles it is between the Mega Meeple studio and Norway, but it's pretty far. So I appreciate you dealing with the time change and stuff like that to speak with us. So now, if people want to find out more about you or Tompet Games, where could they go?
They can just go to tompetgames.no or Tompet Games on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and all of that stuff. And they should also check out Donning the Purple on Kickstarter. I guess this will be aired when this is live, so just check out that. And yeah.
Okay, excellent. And again, we'll have links to all those things in the show notes of this episode. Now, how do you know how long the Kickstarter will go for?
Yeah, it will begin on February 20th, and it will end on the 22nd of March.
Okay. All right, so people got plenty of time to budget their monthly gaming kicks. I think.
Yeah.
I know. We still haven't found a support group for recovering Kickstarter addicts, so I guess there's not much we can do. So, well, thank you so much, Peter, for coming on, and good luck in the Kickstarter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Mega Meeple. Stay tuned for next week's episode as Al and I talk about violence in board games. How much is too much? And that will be dropped next weekend on iTunes. You can subscribe there and leave us some 5-star loving and a happy review. We really appreciate it. It helps us out. If you're not an Apple person, we are on Spotify and Android and a few other things. And also, if you go to our website, www.themegameeple.com, all of our podcasts are streamed there. And reach out to us and follow us on all of our social media sites. The links to all those things can be found on the social media page of the website. And if you really like the show and you'd like to support it in some way by $1 or so every month, help in hosting cost, you could go to our page on Pod Pledge. Again, those links are on the social media page of the website. Now, if you are a game designer and you'd like to be a guest on our show to talk about your game, just contact us at megameeple@outlook.com, or you could go to our website and fill out the fields in the Contact Us page, and we will be notified directly, and we'll get in contact with you and set something up. So until then, thank you so much for listening, and we hope you will join us again next week.